obviously we had three
Like,
less teams. Go ahead.
oh, okay, okay. Oh, I didn't realize you were doing both, but
Yeah.
let me welcome you. This is episode 6 of
Okay.
the Gift of Gabs. So, and I'm pretty fired up today because I'm a volleyball fan. So I have Jenny Maurer, the head coach at University of Central Florida, and we are talking about her coming up to KU and K State. I haven't been in the new arena at K State yet, so I want to see what that looks like. It's seemed pretty good. So you guys started off with 2 wins,
We
right?
did. Yeah, it was a great weekend, great start for us. Building some confidence and plenty to work on after that.
Yeah.
So
Well, I saw one of them was a 5-setter and one was a sweep, right?
correct.
Yeah.
The
Do
first
you
one
do
against
you feel
Virginia
like
Tech was five.
do you feel like you get more confidence out of the 5-set win than a sweep? Or no?
Volleyball is such a game of momentum. I think there's probably moments in both where we gained confidence and
Yeah.
moments in both where they it exposes some things and we have more to add to practice the next week.
Yeah. I was a tennis player and I always felt like in tournaments if I had a tough match early that I got through, it seemed to help me later. Uh,
Hmm.
although you didn't want too many of those because you don't want to stress out. But um,
Right.
does it feel like in volleyball when you go 5 sets, does the team winning the fourth set more often win the match, or not necessarily?
Gosh, I'd have to look at that because you hear about reverse sweeps all the time, but I didn't do the math, but there were so many teams that won the fourth that didn't win the fifth
Yeah,
this past weekend. But it's first weekend, weird things happen,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Similar to
There's
us, there were teams that came out and dominated in the first two and then lost the next two.
yeah.
So yeah, it's first weekend. I don't know if you can really judge first weekend
Yeah,
other
it's
than
been a crazy weekend. Wisconsin starting 0-3
yeah.
surprised me, and then Texas getting beat by Minnesota, and so it's been kind of a crazy start. But
Yeah,
so let's talk about you a little bit first. Your playing background, you were a setter, is that right?
I was. I came up in Catholic CYC League, and my eighth grade year, somebody saw me at just a CYC tournament and asked my coach, who was my mom at the time,
Oh,
she should try out for junior Olympic volleyball. And I knew nothing about it. I heard Olympics, and that's all I needed.
yeah,
Because I did have big aspirations, but I had no idea what this club world was. And of course, it's blown up today compared to what it was back then, but I still was relatively late to the club scene. And so I tried out, I made it. I didn't even know, I knew what a setter was, but I didn't know what a 5-1-6-2. I mean, I was really,
yeah.
really new. And fast forward to I made my high school team, which was a state championship, nationally relevant team, and went on to play at Washington University in St. Louis. So yes, I was a setter, but in college, the spring of my freshman year turned into a right side hitter. So I'm a lefty,
Oh, okay.
and that we had a setter that was 2 years older than us, and so I didn't want to wait. I kind of figured out how to pass and hit. I mean, I knew how to, but I was a
Right.
setter. And but I worked on it a lot that spring. And so from my sophomore through senior year, and my accolades were as a right side attacker.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
Hmm.
you didn't start until 8th grade? Is that what you
Well,
said?
I played in fourth, fifth, sixth, but I don't think I could serve overhand consistently until probably about seventh grade.
Yeah. Because I hear, and I live in Lincoln, so I'm more familiar with Nebraska's volleyball.
Yeah.
And I've seen like interviews with Lainey Choboy saying she started at 7 playing against 11-year-olds and stuff like that. So,
Yeah,
oh,
I'm from a different generation. I
yeah,
mean, I don't even know if it was quite available. Maybe third, fourth grade is when it was,
yeah.
available
Well,
for
and
us in
I
grade school.
I started late. I didn't pick up a tennis racket until the last week of my senior year in high school.
Oh my goodness.
And
Yeah.
and I didn't go to college right away. I waited a year and a half, but
Okay.
by the time I got to college at the second year, I got a scholarship to play tennis. But
Wow.
but I started late because we didn't have a tennis team in my high school.
Sure.
And so I think that's a lot of it for kids to it's what they're exposed to early enough.
Oh, for sure. When I was at Lehigh University, which was 2007 through 2010, there were a lot of high schools that didn't have even girls volleyball. A lot of girls, who
Really,
were athletic played basketball.
basketball, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, not that I've played a ton of sports, but I feel like to me the two most impressive athletes are volleyball players and gymnasts. And,
Yeah.
and I don't know how you become a gymnast without killing yourself. Okay,
Right.
so uh,
It's
but it
another level of
amazes me.
intensity. That's true.
The people that I really love to watch in volleyball are the defensive specialists because I don't see how you can get some of those balls back that are
Yep.
coming at you that hard. Um, Although I guess you probably get used to it. I mean, in tennis, people serve 120 miles an hour, and you can get those back, because
Right.
you get experience with it. But
Exactly.
I have a really interesting book called The Athletic Gene, I think is
Hmm.
the name of it, and he talks in there a little bit about showing some volleyball players just like a one split second clip of somebody getting ready to hit,
Yeah.
and then they can tell you not just where the ball was going, but what match it was, by
Oh, sure.
uniforms, colors, and stuff. So I think there's always triggers like that for every sport. But you played at Washington. Did you grow up in St. Louis?
I did. Born and raised.
I was
Hmm.
born in St. Louis. Uh,
Really?
yeah, I didn't live there long. We moved to Michigan when I was a little less than a year old. So I
Okay.
have a
I
lot of
hear that
family.
Michigan.
Yeah, I have
Uh,
family there,
Okay.
so I try to get there once in a while. But
Yep.
so
All my family's still there.
when you were in college, did you already know that you wanted to coach?
Oh, absolutely not. I was pre-med. I went to WashU. So WashU was the only non-division one school, I guess, that recruited me. But Terry Clemens, longtime coach at WashU and Hall of Famer, she actually had coached at my high school. She never coached me prior to WashU, but she was kind of a legend. All her state banners were hung all over, so I
Oh,
knew who
wow.
she was. So it was my freshman year of high school actually that she started writing me because Division three could write sooner. So she was the first college coach that reached out to me and said, I want you to come be my next All-American setter. Well,
Yeah.
had me by the hook pretty
Oh,
early.
yeah. Yeah, that's like a
Yeah, and
Nebraska girl
so
getting a
um
letter from Jordan Larson or something.
right. So I did actually, ironically, I was recruited and received some handwritten notes from Terry Pettit at Nebraska
Oh,
amongst
yeah.
a slew of other schools, Pepperdine, Clemson, kind of all over the place. And I really actually wanted to go away from home, except for the school. When I was in seventh grade, I told my mom I was going to be a doctor and go to WashU. And so, I had this academic pool, and then
Yeah.
volleyball wise, everything else was Division one and pretty big coming up. And so it was torn, but it was the best of both worlds. I'm the oldest of three girls in my family, first to go to college in my family. And so, when it came down to it, they were winning national championships. So even though it was Division three, right, from a prestige, I guess, volleyball standpoint, I knew that it would open doors no matter what. And at the end of the day, I knew I wasn't going to be a volleyball player forever.
Yeah.
So I chose, the best of both worlds for me, which was WashU. And so I was pre-med and I mean, in hindsight, I used to work the high school camps or the little kids camps at my high school, and I worked the summer camps at WashU, and I absolutely loved them. It was a lot of fun for me. So I didn't know I was really preparing myself for a
Right.
profession, but
Yeah.
it was something that was always fun, and I always looked forward to every year. So after I graduated, I got to play in college. I got to play overseas in Belgium and Holland on an All-American tour of D2 and D3 All-Americans, and came back. wasn't exactly sure if I wasn't ready for med school per se because I was starting to go physical therapy, occupational.
Mhm.
So I kind of was going to take some time and just really work in some clinics and everything. And that's where I got hired as a PT aide that fall of 99 after I graduated. But I also got the opportunity or offer to coach at my crosstown rival high school. And in order to do that, I had to get my teaching certification. So I enrolled in a master's degree that winter at Lindenwood University in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And yeah, the rest is history. I became a teacher and got hired as a high school coach. And I did that for 7 years. I loved it. But I only got to see my team about, 3, 4 months the season, but I taught somewhere else. And it was at the time my husband was like, well, would you want to do this as a profession? I said, yeah, I think I would. So I applied and got the job at
Yeah.
Lehigh University as the head coach, a head Division I coach after coaching high school.
I didn't realize Washington was D3. Are they still?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hmm.
they are. Okay. I guess I was I'm just not paying attention. I always thought of them as a D1 school.
Well, we play D1 and D2 a lot of times, at the time when I mean they're still obviously nationally relevant, but Terry Clemens was winning one national championship after another. I was part of her last two. We won five straight and I never, I guess, finished worse than Elite Eight. So it was a nationally relevant competitive program,
Yeah.
and I was fortunate to be a part of it. But we played a lot of D1 and D2 in the spring
Yeah.
season. We even beat quite a few of them. So you wouldn't know because there were some transfers even on our team from D1 before the portal existed.
Well, in the tournament, though, I mean, tournament pressure, I think, is the same no matter what level. I mean, it feels the same when you're out there.
Well, and we actually played a very different schedule than D1 or any most seasons. We played tournaments like every weekend was like a tournament for us. That was how Terry set it up, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so come tournament time, NCAA time, we were ready because we only had to play like a single match and we were used to,
Oh,
anywhere between
yeah.
3 and 5 matches in a weekend.
Yeah. How hard is that to come back and play? Like if you play Friday and then have to come back on Saturday night or Sunday, is it physically
It's
tough on them?
Yeah, I actually lowered our matches this year. A lot of times you in the preseason we'll play 3 matches in a weekend. And it used to be really over 2 days, like a two on Friday, one on Saturday. And it was just the way this game has elevated the physicality, the speed. It's just too much on these athletes to recover
Yeah.
and ask too much. And so a lot of coaches have gone to the 1 match a day format and I'm glad we did. We might play a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or I think our fourth weekend we're doing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so that we truly get our Sunday off. And I'm glad we did it. We did two this weekend, and we'll do two for the next 2 weekends as well, just one a day. And they need that off day to recover, and that off day hopefully is on a Sunday where they don't have classes too.
Yeah.
And we're just taking more into account than I think was our rest was Advil
Yeah.
of the past.
Yeah.
Um, you
And
know,
athletes have just gotten every sport, bigger, stronger, faster, you know.
right. I mean, you're
'Cause
seeing more
I
concussions
always hate it.
now.
I always hated when people my age talk about, oh, back in my day, we were so good. Those is totally different now. I mean,
Yeah,
training's different, nutrition is different.
correct. Correct.
Yeah. I mean, when I was playing, they told us not to lift weights and they didn't care what you ate. I mean, the only people that lifted were wrestlers and football players,
Right.
and so it's changed a lot. So
Well, I think
so
our program looked a lot like the football program. So
yeah, how much you talked about playing for a really good coach? How much does she influence how you coach?
Oh, tremendously. I thought it was a pretty competitive person until I met Terry Clemens. And,
Yeah,
she had she definitely rubbed off on all of us. I mean, we raced to get a drink because we wanted to be the first back in the next drill. Everything we did was compete, even at restaurants, whether it was trying to balance your forks.
yeah,
There was something magical about it. And I think, um, I definitely feel coach in a lot of my coaching style and approach. her ability to reach players where they are and, push
Mm.
the right buttons. She definitely didn't coach every single one of us the same. Um, but I would say she was fair
Yeah,
and
I think that's the key to it. I only have 6 years coaching experience. I coached a D2 women's golf team.
okay.
And I
You
what
wore
you
a lot of
just
different
said,
coaching hats.
what you
You hit
just said
tennis, golf.
about treating every player a little different, I think you have to. I mean,
Absolutely.
I don't think you can be a good coach and because you have to know what your players are going to respond to. I mean, some people
Correct.
you can kind of kick them and and make push them hard, and other people you have to be a little softer and a little more patient with them, I guess. Oh,
It's very true. And even though, like I said, I was pre-med, I was a psych major. So I love studying people. I love human behavior. I love uh just all aspects of figuring out how to push buttons. That's
yeah,
the fun for me. I said if coaching stops becoming fun because of how much travel and all the minutia and that sort of thing, I'm not going to do it. But at the end of the day, it's about people and people are pretty fascinating. So
yeah,
that's still invigorates
yeah. I
me so
was
much.
I was a college professor for 40 years,
Right.
and I was a psych minor because I knew that I wanted to teach. But I used to tell people I feel like every college professor has a little bit of Socrates in them because
Oh,
you
sure.
just borrow from. I mean, and I did it. I just took whatever professors that I had that did things I liked. I tried to incorporate that. And when I
Hmm.
first started, I asked all the professors in my department, could I come and sit in on one of your classes just to see how they did things, when I
Okay.
was young, and they were really good about it. And I feel like coaching probably is the same way. I was not, I mean, I really would have been a better tennis coach than a golf coach, but
Hmm.
I took the golf coaching job after sort of helping them the first 5 or 6 years. And I think I'd be a better golf coach now just because I know more about it. But that
Sure.
was 20 years ago.
Right.
So, um, so let me bring it a little more modern. How do you feel about the portal, transfer portal?
Well, we've benefited from it quite a bit. I mean, it's here to stay, so, I
Mhm.
could either kick and scream or embrace it. And I think we have chosen to embrace it because where we are as a university, um, well, I guess back up when I left Bradley University, which was after Lehigh, and Todd, my head coach at the time, was talking about there's rumblings that we will someday be in a Power Five, it's heading that direction. And so that was 2016. Fast forward to 20, was it 22, 21 that it got announced that it was, happening. And so I think that was a work in progress and kind of an intrigue, I guess, in the back of my mind, but those things take time and are way above my pay grade. So as that has unfolded and as UCF has built as a university and as a nationally relevant athletics program, this portal came about. There was always the ability to transfer, but I think back then, if a kid was transferring it, you were more suspect of why they were doing it, what
Yeah.
their motivations were behind it, where they were just disgruntled and not playing and whatnot. Whereas now, um, recruiting has its ebbs and flows, especially as the NCAA changes the timeline and when kids can visit and whatnot. Um,
Mhm.
eh, Not that we don't still do our due diligence for why they're leaving and what their motivations are and, the timing of their commitment age-wise and whatnot. Um, we're much more open to it. And I think there were a lot of commitments to other places. We call them sweatshirt schools, the big names, the
Mhm.
storied programs, the ones that have been around forever or affiliated with those programs in the same conference, right? And then they go there and don't have maybe the experience that they wanted. But we've actually benefited from players because of COVID who maybe finished their degree and those programs didn't have a scholarship for another year for them. They came to UCF because of our
Oh, yeah.
offerings and
Yeah.
our flexibility at the graduate level to come here and continue to play. So they weren't all bench warmers, I guess, at their other
Right.
schools. Some of them were relevant and starters and the
Yeah.
likes, and then enhanced our program. So we built it. My first recruiting class was here at UCF, was the class that won 5 straight AAC championships. But we added from the portal through the time too. But they were the ones that
Yeah.
really helped put us on the map as a nationally relevant program.
Well, I was surprised here. I feel like, and not that he wants my advice, but John Cook at Nebraska, I feel like until this year, I felt like he fought the portal a little
Mhm,
bit. Like he
mhm,
wanted and he would be mad if one of his kids left, which I kind of understand. But in um, and last year they lost
mhm,
Caroline Jervicius and Maggie Mendelson went to Penn State.
mhm.
Um, Hayden Kubick went to Tennessee. Allie Batenhorst went to USC, but she had graduated, so she's going to grad school.
Right.
Um, but all four of those girls are starting now where
Yeah.
they were, and they weren't. Allie was playing a lot, but the others weren't.
Right.
And so my initial reaction when the portal first happened was, I think it's too easy now to transfer. You get mad at your coach and you just leave. But I don't think that's how it's working. I think you're right. I mean, it's here to stay, and you got to use it just like any other recruiting
Right.
tool.
I mean, we don't want to be known as a revolving door. I mean, word gets around and
Yeah,
it's kind of obvious. You look at rosters and when it's completely different, year in and year out, or, an entire
yeah,
starting lineup is built from the portal. I mean, you kind of scratch your head a little bit at that, but, um, on the flip side, at least what I've experienced at UCF, while we've benefited from the portal, we haven't replaced an entire roster. It might be one, maybe two in a season.
right.
And again, we also we have 3 different graduating high school classes in our senior class. So after this season, we're losing 5 seniors, and one is a
Um,
6th year, one is a 5th year, and the other 3 are true freshmen coming in
right.
2021 because of COVID and redshirting and whatnot. And so we actually don't have many transfer out from us. I mean, if you look over
Yeah,
the last 10 years, it's less than a handful that have actually left UCF. They come here, they fall in love with the school, and they don't want to leave. And I see
yeah,
that as a good thing as well. You know,
yeah.
we when we recruit, I'm thinking 4 years.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and I think the player is too, probably. Oh,
mhm,
but
mhm,
and I think you're right. I think it's going to get to the point where teams bring in one or two a year
mhm,
because it's hard. And Nebraska has two this year
mhm.
and two freshmen, so
Right.
they'll. Yeah, I think it has settled down a little bit. So
Mhm.
let's talk about your team for a second. Like who do you have back that is, you know, sort of big time player for you?
Yeah, well, our setter that ran a 5.1 last year as a redshirt freshman is back as a redshirt sophomore. Abby Schomer, she ran the floor for us last year, and she is again right now. Every year it changes. So we've actually toyed around a little bit with a 6.2, and that could be a possibility. But we have Chloe Shear, who was our libero the last couple years. She's back as well. Those two are our captains. We have Heidi Bonde is back. She was actually on the floor for a couple years, and then last year ended up having surgery at the very beginning of season, so missed a good chunk of it. Came back the last match or so, just a little bit, just to kind of get in um, a little bit, and is finishing off her senior year this year.
Yeah,
And so it's good to have her back on the floor for sure. She's a scorer for us. And then another one that's back is Ava Armour. She was a right side for us as a freshman last year. She's now on the outside for us. But we have some pretty flexible pin hitters that could hit left or right,
yeah.
as well as Emily Wilson, who's been on the floor for us as well as our outside last year, and is contributing both back row and front row for us at times. So
I know
she was,
last
go ahead.
I only saw you live once last year, but I was really impressed with your setter last year. I thought she put the ball in good positions and seemed like it amazes me that I don't know how setters do it, but to be able to put it in a position where they're not two blockers against you or something to give people an opportunity. and spreading it around so it's not as predictable. But
Right.
it seems like to me that setter would be a difficult position to be in. And I don't know, I've never played, so I don't know when you're a hitter and you're going up, do you actually see the blockers or is somebody telling you where they are? Or
It's a combination of both, and a lot of it is depends on that set location. Ideally, our setter is putting them in one-on-one situations, meaning one blocker
yeah,
or no block,
yeah.
but getting them into different gaps and such. But yeah, I think it's a combination. We work on it quite a bit, whether we're using other athletes or shovels or pool noodles. We have all sorts of contraptions in our gym to get them to visually see what they're swinging at, and also embracing uh, not to avoid it,
So does
because you can use the
getting,
block as a tool.
right, does getting the middles more involved open the outsides up for you? I mean,
Oh, for
if
sure. Hmm.
the, to keep them from sort of double teaming an outside hitter when they're
Exactly,
blocking.
exactly. I mean, there's nuances in volleyball that are similar to the concepts in basketball, similar to the concepts in football, where you're trying to overload one side and then it frees up another
Yeah.
space. And so that's how we utilize our middle blockers for sure. And it opens up both our left and our right side attack as well as our back row attack.
One thing I was surprised, and I've been a volleyball fan for 40 years, but I didn't really get to, I was always teaching at small schools, so I didn't get to see any D1 volleyball in person until the last 20 years or so. And it surprised me that the volleyball team is bigger than the basketball team usually, like taller and don't appreciate it too much until you're down on the floor close to them.
Right.
See,
No, that's so true. We actually have people always ask me who don't know volleyball, well, your team must be really tall. And it's like some of them are, but we also have our range spans from 5'5" to 6'7". So
yeah,
it depends on their position. Obviously, our 5'5" athlete is a back row defensive special.
right, right.
Our 6'7" is a middle blocker.
Yeah, and it pretty much goes by height, I think. And there was and I'm blanking out on her name, but there was a girl that was like 5'10" at Arkansas last year that was amazing as a
Mhm.
hitter, you
Jill
know.
Gillen.
Yeah, and she's playing in Orlando, I think, now in
Yeah, she's 5'10's generous, but she's yeah, maybe in shoes.
yeah, you might be right. She might have been more like 5'8" or 5'9".
She was
There
5'8".
was also
Yeah.
one there was also one at Missouri that was about 5'8" that could jump out of the building, and she ended up transferring to Kentucky or Tennessee or something.
To Pitt, Lekator.
Yeah,
Yep. And
yeah.
then she went to play for the Atlanta Pro team,
Oh,
but
did she? I just
hmm
remember seeing her in the first round of the NCAA tournament in Lincoln, and I mean, her waist was almost at the top of the net. She was jumping, and she was jumping against 6'3"
Yep.
girls, and she was staying up with them. So
Yep.
what do you think? What do you think about these conferences all sort of getting bigger and bigger? I mean, the Big Ten is 18 teams now, and in the SEC, I don't know what they have, but and
Yeah.
I should know for your conference. I don't know how
Right.
many.
We're 16. Well, because Oklahoma State doesn't have a volleyball team. So
Yeah,
yeah. Uh I, again, kind of back in 2016 when Todd talked about them going to some conference shifting and us going into a Power Five. They talked
mhm,
even then about three super conferences of about 20 to 22 teams.
yeah,
So we're trending right where they have
right.
been talking about for
And
years.
I think the Big Ten's talking about that too, being going up to
Mhm.
20 and having
Yep.
like East and West
Hmm.
division or something.
Yep.
I
It's
don't
pretty much been the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the SEC were the three that have been kind of talking about that for quite some time.
yeah.
With the
How,
ACC, they're still dealing through those grant of rights and attorneys, but the Pac-12 dissipating is no surprise. I mean, again, this has all been
right.
being discussed for quite some time. I mean, I keep my ears open, but I have other things to worry about. So
Does it make it harder for you to recruit with some of those conferences being big? or just,
No, I mean, because we're in the big kid sandbox now, so we're
yeah,
competing against them. I don't think it's harder. We're kind of, at least for the Big 12 right now, we're kind of the outlier. I mean, no other Big 12 school has a beach close by and sunshine and palm
right,
trees. So
right,
we kind of use that to as an advantage. And a lot of people, I think just UCF in general, come live and study and work and play where the rest of the world vacations. It's
yeah.
not a bad place. So
And UCF in general though has a pretty good athletics reputation, I think. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
a good
Oh,
football
well, I
program.
mean, yeah, ever since 2016, it was around the time that I came here that things, I'm not correlating the two. It was right on the verge of brinking, right on the brink of exploding. And, I had been two other places at the time, two other Division I institutions at the time, and I saw what UCF was about to do and blow up. And yeah, sure enough, within the first 3 to 5 years of being here, our football team goes undefeated twice. I know there's a lot of controversy, but it's in the
Yeah.
football
When
textbooks,
they went, didn't they go to
index
an
that,
Orange Bowl or something? They went to
yep,
a big bowl.
a couple bowl. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, pretty much every year but yeah, they won that. And they had won a Fiesta Bowl prior to that. And then but that the year they went undefeated, and won that as well. Excuse me. So yeah, I think all of our Olympic sports have been top 25 in the nation um,
mm.
for a couple years running. So that's
How,
yeah, we
how
definitely
big
deserve to
is
be here. And we've been
UCF?
beating Power Five teams even before we were officially in the Big
Right.
12. So in all sports.
How big is UCF number of students? Is it?
Just around 70,000. We're Arizona State and
Wow.
us have traded for a few years, but I know that we've capped
Wow.
our enrollment, so we're not trying to grow any bigger. We like
Yeah.
where we're at.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that big. That's
Hmm.
huge.
Yeah,
Um, so let me the game. How's the game evolved since you played? Is it more power game now, or is it more like just focused on defense? Or I mean, I feel like the teams that are good defensive teams are the ones that go very far, and because everybody has hitters, I think. But
right. I think that was always the case. I just think as players have become that much more physical, there has been a lot of influence from the men's side of the game.
mhm,
Even though there's more females playing, more female teams, more female opportunities, the physicality of the men's game, which is very different because it's, so terminal. There's not a whole lot of rallies. I think we
yeah,
still have a good amount of rallies, but we also have the physicality and the speed, the incorporation of the back row attack, which we had, but you just see more athletes flying, and really
right.
doing it at a faster tempo than they used to.
Yeah, it seems like volleyball and gymnastics are the two sports that people care more about women's than men's
Probably
division.
right.
Um,
Hmm.
I honestly, I don't remember the last time I watched a men's volleyball program because there aren't any in the Big Ten. Well, there are now, I guess, because of USC and those teams coming in. But
Right.
um, but yeah, I just feel like it's like every other sport that people are just better athletes, and
Hmm.
people like me will say, well, their fundamentals aren't as good, but I don't know if that doesn't seem to be true to me either. But
Well, I definitely still contest with, uh, I still, I would still argue that there's definitely more ball control in certain parts of the country, or emphasis put
Mhm,
on teaching ball control, and other parts of the country that don't. And then I also see some influence of the sand game in in certain parts of the country in athletes when I go out recruiting.
right,
So you can tell
right.
players that maybe do play both sports
So
still,
do
even though
you do you have a beach team too?
we do not.
Okay.
Ironically, we're one of the few Florida schools that do not, but we
Yeah.
do not have a sand team. No.
So one more question. Last year I went to the match that had the 92,000 people in the football
Oh, you went
stadium.
to that. Awesome.
Yeah. I couldn't see very well, but it was fun to be there. I was on the opposite end zone, so it was a little
Okay,
tough, but it was cool to watch. And I went
I
to both
bet.
volleyball. There was an earlier match before the Nebraska Omaha
Right.
one, and I went to that one too. There was a
Okay.
couple of D2 schools. Uh,
Mhm.
but do you think, I know around here it seems like the whole sport got a bump from that. Did that impact your program too? Just the idea that attendance was up like crazy last year, and have you seen that too, or it's more
Yeah,
full?
I think it's phenomenal. I think one thing, everybody was watching it. I think our team's watching it. The fact that they're putting more volleyball on TV in general, I think that was a big catalyst for sure. But
Hmm.
having the Orlando Valkyries play right next door in our basketball arena, it was great to even for our athletes to see the professional level live. All of their home
Yeah.
matches that they played, we got to see them live. And one of them included somebody on their roster was one of our graduating seniors from last
Oh,
year, Abby
cool.
Hansen. And
Yeah.
so, that makes it that much more personable for us. And yeah, I think it's great for our sport that there's more exposure, more
Yeah.
access to be able to watch good volleyball, little girls watching
Yeah.
college athletes and coming to our matches, and then our athletes being able to see the next level. Now they're starting to talk about maybe even playing beyond college just because there's more opportunities than going to
Right.
some foreign country. So I think it's
Yeah.
been
That to me, the impact
fantastic.
is not so much on the colleges right away, but the impact to me seems like more little girls would see that and think,
Right.
hey, maybe I should play volleyball.
Right.
And and I went to one of the Supernovas games here, the Omaha
Yeah.
professional team. I was shocked at how much faster
Even more so.
they are. Yeah, and because I mean, I've seen Nebraska and Wisconsin and Texas and those schools, and you think, wow, it doesn't get any better than this. And then you go up here, and
Not
it's
so fast.
another level
Yeah.
up. When that Asia O'Neal kid from Texas just kind of dominates in the Final Four, and then goes to the Columbus team and doesn't play all the time. And you think, whoa, I mean, she's in
Yeah.
there a lot, but not all the time. So,
Yeah. Well, she
uh,
was injured a little bit, but yes,
yeah,
she's
yeah,
obviously very talented. But yeah, a lot of the PVF included some graduating seniors, really fresh out of college. And I think they had their eyes opened a little bit about the professional level, which was nice
yeah,
of bringing some pros over from other
right,
countries originally. I think it enhanced year one because those graduating seniors are rookies all over again and have a lot to
yeah,
learn.
yeah. Because I think the best hitter on the Omaha team is a Dominican player, if I remember right. I
Yes,
think that's where
yeah,
she's from.
Betty.
Yeah. So let me, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I usually ask some fun questions at the end that I did
Okay.
not send you.
Oh, that's
And
okay.
I thought about, having like the fun five questions or something, but it's volleyball, so I have six for your
Okay.
rotations. So, and you can just
Perfect.
throw these out off the top of your head, but and they're
Okay.
kind of weird, but I've gotten some pretty good answers. Says if you could spend a day with anybody, living or dead, who would you spend a day with?
Ooh, Morgan Freeman.
Oh wow. Why? Why Morgan Freeman? Other
Well,
than
one,
he's
I love the sound of his voice, but
yeah,
I just think he's such a fantastic actor, and just anything I've heard him speak on, interviewed on, he's just a fascinating human, and I would just love to pick his brain because he's, of course, his just his acting resume alone, but he's
yeah,
also involved in literacy projects and just different things that he does. It's so fascinating to me. So I just would love to have just talk his ear off and well,
yeah,
listen, really, more
yeah.
than anything, have
It
him
would be
talk to me.
interesting. It would be interesting to meet him. I think you're right about the voice. Him and is it James Earl Jones? That's the other guy that has
Yes.
a really distinctive
Yeah.
voice. But hey, second question: if you could be any animal, what would you pick?
Who I'd have to go with, well, I think in my mind, a kangaroo because I used to hop and jump everywhere. Of course, at 5'8", I didn't get to be a right side attacker for nothing. So I think I would, I don't know if I'd like to be one, but I think that's partially my spirit animal.
Right.
That or a cheetah just because I'd love to be fast and get
Yeah.
places quickly.
Okay. Third question. If you could witness any historical event, what would it be? A couple people have
Witness.
asked me, do I just get to watch or can I influence it?
Right.
Oh,
Well, I guess it was kind of more of a time period. I would be so fascinated to be a part of the Renaissance era. I just all the
yeah.
art and literature and knowledge that came out of that time period, and I would love to go back in time to that time
Yeah.
period. Does that
I
count?
used to I used to take students to London every spring and
Mm.
we would spend a weekend in Paris if some of them wanted to go.
Oof,
So we'd spend it, in most of Paris, you're mostly in museums, I think, when you're only there for a couple days.
right.
But and you talk about old, historical periods. One of the students that went with us one year was a direct descendant of William Wallace in
Oh,
Scotland.
mhm.
In fact, her name was Wallace. But
Okay. So there's
that
no
was
denying that
really
one.
it
Yeah.
was cool. It was kind of cool for her until we went to visit the place where they executed him, and that
Yeah.
you could tell that sort of bothered her a little
Hits
bit.
home, right?
But
Yeah.
okay, so next one, what's the most interesting place you've ever visited or would like to visit?
Well, that I have visited, when I went to play on that tour through Belgium and Holland, we went in the Netherlands. We went to, I guess, two places. One was along the canals in Amsterdam and go into this little bookshop, and lo and behold, that is the bookcase and that with the hidden annex where Anne Frank and her family hid.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and we
Mm,
got to go through all of that. Of course, it's now a, museum,
yeah,
and also we got to travel over into Germany right there where the holding camp was. It wasn't a concentration camp, but it was a holding work camp for the
right.
Jews, and they called it a transition camp. And those were just so profound after reading the diary of Anne Frank growing up. And I
Mhm.
don't think I held my breath, or I don't think I breathed. I held my breath for like
Yeah,
hours that day, just in awe. And um, the lump in your throat, that was definitely the
yeah,
most surreal place I'd ever been, because it was, just going over to Europe in general and seeing history and how much older
yeah.
it is than America. But
Yeah, that was the thing that struck students a lot because I was doing
mm,
it when I was in Northwest Nebraska, and
mhm,
the oldest building on our campus was like a 1912 or 1914
mm,
or something. And we would
sure.
go to London and you'd walk into a pub and it says established 837 or something,
Right,
it's like 1500 years old or something,
right, right,
and so you kind of get an appreciation for not
for
just
sure,
how young we are, but how long things have been going on. So,
for sure.
okay, next one, if you had to eat one food every day for the rest of your life, not just that food, but you had to have it at least once a day, what would it be?
Probably these days avocados. I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
What I'd love to eat was lasagna, but that doesn't go over so well.
Yeah. Okay, last question. If you could start a rumor about yourself, what would you be? What would it be?
A rumor? Oh, I guess something about my maybe some hidden strength, or something that, I'm a black belt in something, so that people, I don't know, don't try to mess with me.
Yeah, I'm not a black belt in anything. I did
Me
work for
neither.
the vice president when I hired at Chadron State. The vice president was a second or third degree black belt in Taekwondo. She had been doing it for a long time, so maybe that
Hmm.
would come in handy for her. Well, I
Right.
appreciate your time. I will see you the 27th at
Yeah, looking
KC.
forward to it.
And I don't think I'll probably make KU, but the K-State one for sure. So
Awesome. I'm looking
those,
forward to it.
yeah, I appreciate you doing this. This was really good.
Well, thanks for having me. It was an honor, and always great talking volley, and
Yeah,
just how much it's changed, of course, and yet it's still a game, and I get to coach it for a living.
yeah.
So
Well, good luck. You
love
have
to
a
be able to
match
share that.
tomorrow, right? You have a match tomorrow?
No, Thursday,
Thursday.
Saturday. This week we have Stetson at Stetson and UNC Wilmington at Stetson also, their tournament.
So how soon does your conference start? Conference?
The KUK State is first weekend.
Oh,
So
is
we have
it?
4 weeks of non-con and then that's opening weekend of conference.
Okay. Well, thanks, Jen. I appreciate this.
Of course. Of course. Take care. Thanks so much.
Bye.